Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And I'm here today to talk a little bit about my thoughts on AI and why, personally speaking, I do not trust it, and I don't think anyone else should trust it either. And most certainly, I don't think anyone should ever become dependent on it for their information. And I'm sure some of you by now, if you've been paying attention to anything, you've probably seen that it can have a very detrimental effect. It's already proving to have a detrimental effect on people in general, their psyche, their ability to learn, and more. So that's some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. Now, one of the things I figured out I could do, because it really irritated me that every time I tried to look something up, the first thing that would pop up in my browser was an AI result. And I hate that. But I found, especially if you use DuckDuckGo, you can easily disable that. It's a lot harder if you use Google, which I do not. And so, but DuckDuckGo on your phone browser or your computer, it's really easy to disable it by simply, when that AI result comes up, over to the right-hand side, the little cog wheel, click on that, and you'll get options to just have it show once in a while, all the time, or never. And click on never, and it will stop showing that. So I found out that I could switch the browser on my phone to DuckDuckGo, so I could easily turn it off from there, and the same thing on my computer. And so, if you're trying to avoid seeing it all, because automatically your eyes are going to go to whatever it sees first, right? And you just simply cannot trust it. I've explained this before, but a while back when I was going to do a video on canning lids, I was going to talk about my favorite canning lids, which, by the way, are the Superb now, and you will always find a link to them down below. The second would be the Tatler. Both are made 100% in the US. But one that I will not use, and that is the 4 jars. Now, this is my personal feeling. I know a lot of people are promoting them, but I can get better made lids that are made in the US, not made in China. This was part of my issue with the 4 jars. Not only are they made in China, but the company is finding more and more ways to try to avoid being honest about where they're made. So at any rate, my point being that I wanted to double check, because I'd heard years ago they were planning on building a factory in the US. And I thought, before I say anything, I need to look this up myself to make sure they haven't since built that factory in the US and that they're now made in the US. So I went to look this up, and the first thing that popped up was AI saying, no, they're not made in China. Yes, they are made in the US. But when you look closer at the links they provided to get that information, that's not what either one of those links said. They said, in fact, they both specify that the lids are made in China. But they also talked about how, they plan on moving the factory to the US at some point. So AI grabbed those two little things to make it, and I tried the search in a couple of different ways, and it still would come up saying that they were made in the US, when that's 100% not true, even according to the links that AI provided for their resource. So there's one reason why you cannot trust it. And another reason why you cannot trust it is, if you understand how it works and how it's taught, it's really taught to give for basic questions. If you just ask a question, let's say you're using Chat GPT, which I've never used and never will, and you start asking it questions, you just say basic questions and you don't give it very strict parameters, it's going to give you standard answers that it's taught to give. And some of that is based on what it finds across certain sites on the internet. So here's an example. I had somebody asking me was all freaked out about fermenting, because when they were looking at fermenting eggs and fermenting this and fermenting that, they were talking to Chat GPT about it, and it was scaring them to death about botulism. Gee, what a surprise. because everything that's, when it comes to home food preservation is botulism. And yet it's extremely rare. And people don't seem to mind injecting that botulism toxin into their skin because of vanity. So you got to understand where it's coming from. Now, there's a channel called, there's two different ones. There's Answers in Genesis, that's based in the United States, and Answers in Genesis Canada, which is mostly the one guy that does it. And what I find interesting, I've watched a couple of these videos where he's talked to Grok or Chat GPT, and he sets specific parameters for the answers he wants. He wants it based on logic. He wants it to be based on strict, he sets up these strict parameters so that it has to answer truthfully. Then he'll turn around and say, okay, let's say I'm somebody new coming along and I'm just going to ask this question without any of these parameters I set for you. What would your answer be? And it will revert back to the answer it's taught to give, which is very different than the answer that it gave when the strict parameters were put in place. So unless you know how to do that and have some practice, I wouldn't use it at all. In fact, I still wouldn't even use it, even knowing that about it, because I just don't trust it, for one. And to my next point, when we become dependent on AI to teach us things, and that is our only source, we are now going to start dumbing ourselves down, even if it's giving us accurate information. And the reason why is because now it's like being spoon-fed. And if you're always spoon-fed everything, you're not getting a choice of the food you're eating. And eventually you're probably going to forget how to feed yourself. So when you are doing the research on your own, you learn how to use different sources and compare the different sites and what each site says according to the side or opinion that they're coming from. Because some things are based on opinion, some things are based on fact, and you got to be able to tell the difference between opinion and fact. Some opinions are going to be very good and well worth following, where others may not. And then facts have to be the core of it. But you're not going to know when the AI is talking to you or giving you these results. Is this based on fact or is it based on opinion? Is it true? You're not going to know that. You're just going to buy into whatever it's telling you, especially if there's no strict parameters put in place. So now what's happening is you're losing the ability to be able to use your own logic, your own reason, and the ability to just know how to vet your information and look at all of the stuff and compare it. So it's really just taking the easy way out. And the other thing that you're losing is the fact that when you're talking, because some of your other resources, besides looking stuff up online, should be good quality books, because now you've got hard copy information. But one thing that I find very important is real people with real experience. And the more experience they have, the more you should be able to trust them in what they're teaching you. It doesn't necessarily mean everything they say is right, but then again, this is why we learn how to vet information and use many different sources. But when you're dependent on AI, you start to lose that real person interaction. Even when you're watching YouTube videos, you might not be there talking to the person directly, but you're hearing real life people that are telling you what works best for them or what they have done or how they did something. And then you can take that real life information and see how best it may or may not apply to you. Again, using your own brain to figure that out, which is going to help keep you sharper. But that person-to-person interaction, we're starting to lose that with all of this stuff. And that is so important. It's not just important for the sake of good quality information, because not everybody's going to get it right, but it's also important for the sake of of just the social aspect that we're starting to lose grasp of. And I think it's one of the reasons why we're seeing people just turn on each other for the silliest little things, is that we're losing our ability to socialize and do it properly with people that we might have a lot in common with. But even those who might have very different opinions, we can still learn a lot from them with open discussion. So it's making us lazy in so many ways. Here's an example of something I just saw recently. So besides the one I gave about the 4 jars lids, was that a local friend of mine, had vacuum sealed up some coconut into a jar a couple years prior, and she just put it out there. I don't even think she was really asking people. I think she was just putting it out there like, hey, I'm going to open up this coconut. Do you think it's still good? A lady in our town who is the kind of person that clearly trusts AI for everything, but has no idea of anything when it comes to food preservation, she started posting different AI results. Oh, coconut can go rancid and blah, 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 blah. But she didn't have the proper parameters. So when coconut or any other kind of fatty foods like nuts, seeds, and the like, when you vacuum seal it into jars, it is not going to go rancid, because the vacuum sealing of your fatty foods into jars is going to prevent rancidity, because now you're not getting the constant oxygen exposure, and also trying to keep it stored in the coolest part of your home is also going to help prevent rancidity. I have never had a single jar of coconut, nuts, seeds, or any of the like go rancid as long as my seals were still intact. And coming back to the Superb lids, I will for now only ever seal my nuts and seeds, these expensive nuts, the pecans, the walnuts, the Brazil nuts, with Superb lids, because even the ball and cur are starting to fail me. And now I've got some pretty expensive organic Brazil nuts or walnuts going rancid on me because they lost their seal in food storage and I didn't know it. So yes, from now on, I'm only using Superb for vacuum sealing the expensive items like that. And on a side note, I don't worry about the dried herbs, though I do vacuum seal them. If they lose the seal, they're still going to stay good for years to come. They might just lose a little quality and flavor over time, but they're still going to be good, unlike the nuts that will go rancid. So anyway, if this woman had any idea whatsoever about food storage and vacuum sealing and how it prevents things from going rancid, she could have given a real experienced answer, but instead she relied on AI to give an answer that had no parameters to give a proper answer on that. And I, of course, told her, well, as long as your jar's still vacuum sealed, it will definitely still be good. I've had coconut in jars for many years, like some, I think, for as long as maybe 7 or 8 years, and opened it up and it was still as good as the day I put it in there. So that's what I'm talking about. Experience over AI that's just going to pick some random facts based on no parameters, really, for a guideline to go by. So anyway, that's just a few things. I could go on and on, but my personal opinion and recommendation is do everything you can to avoid AI and don't trust it to teach you anything about herbal medicine, home food preservation, or any of that, because it's not going to give you the answers you're looking for. Rely more heavily on good quality books, websites, and people who have the experience. So if any of you have any thoughts, ideas you would like to share, please put those in comments down below. I think it's good to get a lot of feedback on this and get an idea of what other people are thinking and feeling about that. And have you used it? What kind of results did you get? Did you compare those results to other things? And what are your general feelings on it? And thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.